Welcome to an all-new episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchi B. Hey guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Looks and Wisdom Sundays with me, Oluchi B. Please say the B, please. AKA the elusive pundit. Honey, how are you feeling? I am feeling lonesome. Well, that's only because last month I had guests on the show and we were chopping it up on some important topics. We had Bongeka Mhlongo, author of Thinking in Full Color, come and speak to us about the thinking women, pros and cons, privileges. And then we had Toli Madlala, who spoke to us about menopause. She's also an author of the Perimenopausal Globetrotter. And then we had Neo Iana Masilela, founder of the Neo Healing Institute, who spoke to us about the mother wound. And I've always been invested in the mother wound and how our relationship with our mother affects us and the relationships that we get into. So in the month of September, I decided to expand on the mother-child relationship dynamic. So in September, we are going to be looking at different types of mother-child relationships and how they affect us. Of course, you know we are a boring channel. We talk about boring topics. In order for us to bring a little bit of excitosis to the topics, I will be making examples with celebrities, okay? So it's going to be like a hot topic month talking specifically about mother-child relationship dynamics. So what are we doing this week? This week, we are going to be talking about the mother-child dynamic pertaining to the enabler mother syndrome and how that affects the child that grows into an adult. And for this episode, our celebrity example is going to be Mihlali Ndamase. So Mihlali Ndamase is a South African influencer. She is very much famous, very much a trending topic. She trended twice this year, firstly for the Rihanna incident and then about her relationship, and we will get into that later on. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode, the enabling mother syndrome. Of course, here at Looks and Wisdom, we like definitions, honey. And this definition is from New Life House, which is a psychology website, and it says that the enabling mother syndrome is a term used to describe a pattern of parenting in which the parent gives more attention, resources, and support to their child, more than is necessary. So again, according to the New Life House website, the enabling mother syndrome is a term used to describe a parenting style in which the parent gives more attention, more resources, and more support to their child than it is necessary. So some of the indicators of an enabling mother syndrome include always making excuses for the child's behavior, never setting limits or boundaries with the child, taking too much responsibility for your child's decisions, refusing to acknowledge when there are problems or challenges, trying to reserve consequences for your child's behavior, and trying to be a friend instead of a parent. So we're going to be making an example with Mihlali and her mother, and I will be linking the video down below where Mihlali and her mom are having a Q&A session and where I got some of my findings when it comes to their relationship dynamic. So trying to be a friend instead of a parent, it's very strongly visible between the relationship between Mihlali and her mother. And I think it's mainly because she had the baby when she was young. So if you grow up with a parent, chances are you are going to get very close or very much separated, depending on whether or not there was trauma in that relationship. So Mihlali's mom, from where I'm sitting, looks like the type of mother who is more of a friend instead of a parent. And there are some admissions, if you do check the video, that I will link down below, where she hangs out with her child, which is Mihlali, where she goes to certain events with her child. And another thing I wanted to highlight is always making excuses for your child's behavior. And this is something that I picked up on when they were talking about when Mihlali has trolls on the internet or she's trending for something. Her mother actually did admit that oftentimes, she wants to add her 2 cents to the conversations in defense of Mihlali. So that's always making excuses for your child's behavior. Not setting limitations or boundaries. I mean, that is also already explained by the dynamic of being a friend instead of a parent. And also refusing to acknowledge where there's a problem. And the example that I will use is they were having a conversation regarding Mihlali's social media, where she is sexualizing herself. And they were talking about whether or not she's got problems with that or some of her posts. And she said no, and she said she would rather stay away from having an opinion, but she does have an opinion sometimes. Does allude to the fact that sometimes she refuses to acknowledge whether there's a problem or not. Again, some of the indicators that you are in a relationship with your mother where it's an enabling mother syndrome. Your mom always makes excuses for your behavior. There are no clear boundaries or limitations in the relationship. They take too much responsibility for your actions. You know, the moms that will go to the school, swear at the school principal, and it turns out really the child was smoking weed behind the school. The school. Oh my God. And then trying to reserve consequences. So if your child does something wrong, like smoke weed behind the school corridors, then they would try to absolve the situation or blame the school. And then trying to be a friend instead of a parent, where a parent is really your friend. You hang out with your parent, you go into different events with your parent, and there isn't that clear, I'm a mother, you're a child, you stay in your corner, I stay in your corner type of relationship. So now we're going to be moving over to why some parents suffer from the enabling mother syndrome. The first one we're going to be looking at is the fear of consequence. I think I did touch a little bit on this just now on the other segment. So fear of consequence is you are afraid that your child is going to be unhappy, is going to experience unhappiness in some way, shape, or form, or is going to experience some of your traumas. For example, in the case of Mihlali and her mom had Mihlali when she was relatively young, and maybe she fears that there might be a strained relationship, so she overcompensates for that. Or sometimes your parent grew up in abstract poverty under immense trauma, and they experience some turbulences in their lives, and now they are hovering over you because they are trying to protect you from the life that they had. Or sometimes a parent has a child later and they are fearing that they are going to die, so they overcompensate by being too present in the child's life. The second thing is feeling of anxiety. And this comes from parents who were traumatized in their relationship with their parents. I couldn't pick up in Mihlali and her mother's conversation whether or not she had some trauma growing up, but as a Black person in South Africa, there is some trauma that you suffer from, just from the sheer fact that there was apartheid. But her, as her own self, she does suffer from a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and they did talk about that, in the sense that she has a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, doesn't trust easily. But Mihlali is the opposite, which speaks to that generational, okay, I grew up very fearful, very anxiety stricken, and then I want my child to have the opposite, which is what Mihlali has. Overcompensation, that could be for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you are a working mom and you feel like you need to overcompensate because you don't spend a lot of time with your children. So you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be too much of a mother. I don't want to create these boundaries because I'm gone for work anyway. So when I'm around, I want to create this nice environment that doesn't have consequences and make sure that my children love me and they don't fear me. And then last but not least, peer pressure from other parents, which is what I am seeing a lot today in social media with the calm parenting, the soft parenting, this parenting, whatever parenting, where women are overcompensating with their relationship with their children because of the peer pressure from society. Oh, now we're sitting in the calm way of parenting. Don't swear at your children, don't beat them, don't put them in timeout, don't. And I don't know, I didn't pick up anything around pressure with Mihlali's mom or anything like that, but it could be, we don't know. And then now we are going to be looking at how the child who grows up with an enabler mother is then affected in their adulthood. We're going to start by looking at the signs that you can use to identify if you had an enabler relationship with your mother who suffered from the enabler mother syndrome. So the first sign is the need for special treatment. So usually children who are raised in environments where the mother is like the helicopter mom, involved, doesn't allow the children to deal with their own consequences, is always hovering above, solving the child's problems, they have a need for special treatment. They want to be treated special. They feel like they deserve to be the center of attention. And an example that I will make with Mihlali is when she was invited by the Fenty to go to LA, and then she was there, met Rihanna, and then she came back and I don't know the whole situation allegedly, but she was liking posts that said she looked prettier than Rihanna. And that led to her being ostracized by Rihanna's team. So that stems from that direct relationship with your mom where you are always made the center of attention, even when it's not necessary, that you cannot think that other people deserve to be the center. It's not your event. You are an invited guest. You need to act accordingly, and you want to make everything about yourself. So that's an example of the need to feel special. The second one is to prioritize their own needs. I mean, Mihlali runs a YouTube channel that's very successful. She's a great influencer. She runs her own makeup workshops and does a lot of collaborations with brands. So and she's successful in that. That shows that she does prioritize herself and she does prioritize her needs. In order for you to be successful anywhere else, there has to be a level of selfishness and prioritizing your own self. I'm not going to make a negative example about that. And then the second thing is the need for constant praise. I mean, I can make that Rihanna example again, where it's people pumping you, telling you you're great, and you buying into that, and you're not seeing the danger of doing that. And then another sign that you're an able person is addiction, because you never got no, and because your parents, especially your mother, always came to rescue you from circumstances. You don't know the answer no. And usually people who don't know no usually get into circumstances where they are addicted to circumstances. So the next 3 points I want to talk about, which is entitlement, not having fear or sense of danger, and victim mentality, speaks to the romantic relationship that she was involved in. And I wanted to bulk that up because it speaks to the same thing. Feeling entitled means that you can go and take whatever belongs to anybody else without consequence. So in her relationship with Leroy, which allegedly started when he was in a marital affair with another woman, Mihlali exuded the reference of an entitled person. You can go take whatever you want because you can have it. And it has nothing to do with the child. It just has everything to do with the dynamic of the relationship they had with their mother, where they never got no. And then having no sense of fear or danger means that because she's fixated on her own benefit from this relationship, she could not sense or have fear about what was going on, which is what we get to find out now, that she was allegedly being mismanaged. Her Q&A with her mother, which I will link below, she does speak about she doesn't see danger, she doesn't have anxiety, which leads to that because you're always sheltered and you're always protected. There's someone else who's doing all the protection and looking after you when it comes to danger and fear. And then the last thing I want to talk about is that victim mentality, where after you grab allegedly something that doesn't belong to you and it then burns you, and you can't sense that it's burning you because you have blind spots when it comes to fear and when it comes to taking accountability, then you are quickly to move into victim mentality, where you are blaming everybody, where you are now posting a black and white sympathy pandering video asking people to be on your side. Again, signs that you are an able person, you grew up with an enabler mother, the need for special treatment, always feeling like you're special, always feeling like you're the center of attention even when it's at the detriment of other people, always prioritizing your own needs, which is wonderful because I mean, you can have a successful YouTube channel and be a successful influencer. The need for constant praise, and then addiction, where you are addicted to fame, addicted to being in the constant spotlight, and then the entitlement, victim mentality, and not having fear. Then on to the last segment, we're going to be talking about how if you are a helicopter mom, aka suffering from the enabling mother syndrome, how you can mitigate and create a more healthier relationship with your child. You can mitigate this enabler relationship with your child by setting clear boundaries. I'm the mother, you are the child, this is how we do business over here. Secondly, being a parent instead of a child. There is a very, very strong distinction between a friend and a parent. So understand what a parent is supposed to do and understand what a friend is supposed to do, and lead from the hand of a parent. And then the final thing I want to talk about is allowing the child or the adult to have their own lives and make their own decisions and deal with the consequences of their own decisions without hoovering about, without solving their problems, without you getting into the child's problems. So you need to set boundaries, be away, and you need to distinguish between you being a parent and you being a friend, and lean towards being a parent, and then allowing your child to have their own lives and also to make their own decisions and to solve their own problems. I hope you guys took a lot of nuggets from this episode, and I hope it clarifies some things when it comes to mother-child relationship and how it can affect us as we evolve into adulthood. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe, do comment, do like, do tell your other friend, and do give us feedback. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week for another wonderful episode with I love you big. Please say it big. Thank you.